Mabuhay ug madayaw! I am Celso MT Manom from BSTM2 Block 5. And for today's presentation, I will discuss the tributo, one of the earliest form of taxation during the Spanish colonial period in the Philippines. We will go through its historical background, its effects on the Filipino people, and reflect how taxation then compares with taxation today. So, let's start our discussion. First, the tributo was a form of taxation introduced by the Spanish colonizer in late 50s. So, the tributo was a general annual tax imposed by Spanish colonizer on Filipino families, initially fixed at 8 reals and later replaced by the cedula personal to support the colonial government and church. Second, every Filipino male, usually from the age of 16 to 60, was required to pay a tribute. During kasi sa Spanish colonial period in the Philippines, tribute primarily referred to the compulsory labor system known as polo o servisyo, while required Filipino males aged 16 to 60 to perform 40 days of unpaid labor on community projects. And a smaller monetary payment, this system was a form of forced labor to support the Spanish government's infrastructure projects like building ships and roads, and that was an obligation that served to extract labor and resources from the local population. The basic amount was 8 reals, as I said earlier, truly equivalent to 1 peso, and it could be paid in cash or kind such as rice, fuel, textile, or other local products. Mura siya ganang mag-barter-barter lang. Second slide, the tributo had a depth impact on the lives of Filipinos. On the negative side, it was burdensome for many poor families who barely earned enough to survive. It created resentment, especially when abuses occurred in tax collection, such as overcharging or forcing people to pay beyond their names. On the other hand, it provided some structure to colonial governance. Taxes funded government operations, defense, and the spread of Christianity. However, these benefits were not equally felt by Filipinos. Most of the revenue served Spanish interests rather than local needs. In overall, the tributo symbolizes control and inequality in reinforcing the power of colonizer over the native population. The next slide, looking at taxation in history, we see how the tributo reflects both the necessity and abuse of taxes. In modern times, we still pay taxes to support government programs, infrastructure, education, and public services. The difference is the ideally, taxations today is meant to serve the people rather than just the rulers. The main purpose of the tributo was to fund the colonial government, support military expenses, and maintain religious missions across the island. What we can learn is the importance of fairness, transparency, and accountability in tax collection. Just like before, taxation can either oppress people or empower society, depending on how it is managed. As citizens, understanding this history reminds us to be aware of how our taxes are used and to demand that they truly benefit the people. And I guess that's the end of my presentation about tributo during the Spanish period. Thank you mga ka-taxation!